butt in right now, but I would have to search through my purse and I didn't get it out as usual. So, okay. Good morning. Today, I just want to talk very briefly about emotional guidance. This is what I was going to talk about yesterday, but I had so many miracles happening that I ended up talking about, like waking up and feeling the fullness of love from source energy, and then my day just got better from there. There were a couple times when I felt like the sun, it's so hard to explain. I don't even know if I'll be able to explain it to you. But the closest I can explain, and I know you guys probably think I come up with the weirdest picture descriptions that are not typical. But anyway, the closest way I can explain it is that the sun was shining directly on me. Like the beam of light from the sun was going through the top of my head and filling me up with like sparkles and like warmth and light. And if I was talking to someone, like light was coming out of my mouth. And if I was looking at something like with focus, like intently, light was like coming out of my eyes. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just felt like connected, like spiritually connected and like in the zone. And it was weird because I could feel myself like come out of the zone as I tried to like think through it and say like, what is this feeling I'm having? Like I feel like the sun is like right on my head, not in a sunburn kind of way, but in a like fullness of like you are connected to this planet right now in this moment, that kind of way. It was very nice. I felt like invincible. I can't even explain it. There's so many words. So anyway, I had tons of miracles yesterday. So I have been dealing with this annoying situation for probably 3 years now. Yeah, like almost 3 years to the day. And it was over yesterday. Like I just got a message, hey, everything's fine, it's over. And I'm absolutely not going to go into detail about it, just to say that it's over and it was a miracle. It happened. I got the message that everything was said and done, in case, you know, it was on the books, case closed, everything is, you know, good. At a time when I was actively managing my vibration. And this is what I want to talk to you about. Emotional guidance. So what I was doing was, I had told you before that I was feeling disappointed, and I had to talk myself back out of the hole of disappointment that I was going down and get myself back on the right track as far as knowing, you know, who I am, whose I am, and all that. And then I got the message from God that how much He loves me, how much He's walking with me. I said, okay, great, this is great. And then, you know, I felt the need to like, I don't know, I was feeling a little bit unsure of what, you know, what would happen. And in that moment I stopped and I sang a little bit of I Surrender All, because it always reminds me of when Oprah said that she just let go and then good things happened. So I sang a little bit of I Surrender All, and I went into the restroom at work. I looked in the mirror and I said to myself out loud, aren't you the girl who stands in the future? Aren't you the girl who stands in the future and talks about the past, which is now, and looks at it at a perspective from the past? Why aren't you doing that right now? Why don't you stand in the future and look at this situation as it really is? Just a memory, just an imaginary, you know, hassle that goes away, and it's just a memory. So I did that, and while I was doing that, I was getting a text message that everything was fine, the thing was over, no problem. So another example of why the practice of standing in the future really works, and I would recommend it to everyone. So that's what I want to talk about today: emotional guidance, and how do you let your feelings be your guide. So the first thing is realizing that life is a dream, and that your past is good morning. Your past is in your imagination because it's already said and done. The memories that you got from it are sealed in. You can't go back and look around and see. And other people who are with you in those situations probably have completely different memories than you have. So your past is basically your imagination. Whatever you decided you remember, that's the way you remember it. But you may sit down with siblings later and they tell you a completely different story from their perspective. So your past is in your imagination. Your future is in your imagination also, because you have not gotten there yet. So you have no idea what's going to happen, and all you can do is make it up in your head. And you can make it up in a good way, or you can make it up with a bad story. It's up to you how you make it up, but it's all your imagination. So all you have really is like this moment. This moment is even imaginary, because this moment is shaped by your worldview. It's shaped by the way you think the world is working. So this present moment, I see what I want to see because it's going to prove what I think is already true. And that's the way things work. And it's probably a protective thing so our brain doesn't get overloaded and completely explode out of our head like that emoji with the mind-blowing thing. Because that's what would happen if we saw everything. If we saw every single thing from everyone's perspective, we wouldn't be able to handle it. So we just filter the things that we need to see at the time we need to see it. And that's okay with me. Because later I know if I need to see something else, I can change my perspective. So everything around us, past, present, future, it's all in our imagination. And the way that we can continue to move forward is to, first of all, whatever in the past that was bad, stop talking about the bad stuff from the past. Just remember the good things, talk about the good things. Don't keep rehashing all the bad things that ever happened in your whole life. Don't feel the need to explain to everyone what you've been through so that they could know who you are. Now I believe there's an important time and place for explaining what you've been through and who you are, from a core values standpoint, if it's going to help someone else. If it's going to help, like you see somebody else going through, like I've had a lot of bully bosses. When I meet someone who's like suffering with all this anxiety and stuff, and it turns out they have a bully boss, I'll go back to that place of like, hey, this is what I remember it feeling like, and this is what I did. And I'll go back to a dark place in order to help someone else get out of a dark place. But to go into a dark place and start explaining your whole life story just to get sympathy, you have to ask yourself, like, what am I benefiting from telling this story? Like, am I just doing this for selfish reasons? I'm just going to tell you what happened to me so that you can feel sorry for me. It's not going to help you and it's not going to help me. Then that's ridiculous. Don't do that. But if you can see, somebody's getting divorced and you've been divorced, and you say, hey, I've been there. This is what helped me, and you can live through this. Look at me, I'm fabulous now, that kind of thing. Then it's worth, chewing that old stale gum. But if it's not anything that's going to help anybody, don't chew that old stale gum. Moving forward with your feelings. So I'm learning how to explain this. And not sound like a complete crazy person, which I probably do most of the time, and I don't care now. I don't know. After you turn 40, I guess, you're just like, well, screw it. I'm crazy. But if you're on a path, or say, let's use we can use the metaphor that, what's his name used? It's kind of bad. What's his name? About being with a fleet. You're on a fleet with a fleet of ships, and the main ship that guides the direction that the entire fleet is going in is the mothership. I know it's gonna sound weird, but yes, you are following the mothership. And this main ship that is leading all the other boats behind it, like you're your own boat and you're following behind the main boat. The main boat, and I've never been in the Navy, so if none of this makes sense, don't send me weird messages about how stupid I am about the Navy. I don't know. I'll tell you right now. I'm just repeating this that I learned on Oprah. So if you have your boat and you're following the mothership, okay, on the ocean in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere. The mothership has the directions, the instructions, all the navigational tools, all of, you know, they have the weather forecast, they have everything. Like the main ship knows exactly where it's going and the best way to get there. It may not be the shortest route, but it's the best way because maybe there's rough seas, maybe there's a storm, you know, then maybe there's a hurricane or something. So the mothership has the directions and we're just following the mothership as our little boat. Now, when you're following the mothership, everything is fine. The water is calm, the sky is blue, you can chill out on the top deck or whatever and sunbathe yourself. You don't have to do anything. It's joy, it's perfect, it's happiness. But if you start going off on a different path and you start going, you know, parallel to the direction that the mothership is going in, or God forbid you go backwards, you turn around and you're going a completely opposite direction of the mothership, you are going to encounter some storms. You are going to, if you're going, you know, did I say parallel? I meant perpendicular. It's, you know, I don't do geometry anymore. I'm a grown up. But you're not going in the same flow, the same direction that the mothership is going. You're going a different direction. You're going to feel, the further off course you are, the more intense of a negative emotion you're going to feel, because you're not in agreement, you're not in alignment with your guidance system that's telling you like, hey, this is where we're trying to go, this is the best way to go, so follow me. But instead you either don't hear the voice or you ignore the voice and you start going your own way. Well, there's rough seas over there, there's a hurricane over there, and this is translated into negative emotion. You have peace, joy, happiness when you're going along with your guidance, you know, with source. But if you start going your own way and it's not, you know, it's not a good direction, you're gonna have anxiety, you're gonna have sadness and fear and anger. And if you're going the opposite way of the mothership, you're probably gonna have panic attacks. You're gonna have panic attacks, you're gonna have a lot of severe depression, immobilizing, crippling depression, because you're not going in the direction that God is taking you. And that the mothership is not going to turn around and come get you. You know, I mean, it's not going to leave you. All you have to do is turn around and you'll be fine. But it's not going to like stop and wait for you or come and get you. It's going to continuously be moving in the best direction for your life. And there's other little boats there too. There's other little boats. You're not the only little boat. It's a whole fleet. And all the boats that are following that particular mothership are your soulmates. So they're all going in the same similar direction that you're going, and you're all connected because you're all following the main navigational system. And sometimes along the way, if you're really connected to source and you're really in a good way and you're flowing right along the path that you should be flowing, you'll start to meet these people. And you'll meet people who you can tell are on the same wavelength. Like, this person is on the same path as me. You know, it's just amazing the connection that you have immediately. And those are soulmates. And that, you know, the term has been like dragged through the mud on TV. It's not like that one man that's meant for you. No, it's just other people. They could be men, they could be women, who are on your same path and who are also following along with source. And it's a beautiful experience. You can tell these people right away. You're like, oh, long lost sister. So letting your emotions guide you. This is my life right now, and it hurts me to see other people who are, you can clearly tell that like who they know they are, they're going against that and they're having negative emotion, but they won't stop not being who they are. You know what I mean? Like, you have this has this unique personality, but instead of just being yourself, you feel like it's more important for people to like you, and so you try to conform and be what someone else wants you to be, and then you end up, you know, drinking yourself to sleep every night and feeling depressed because you're not walking in your purpose. You're living somebody else's life for them, and that, you know, you can see that if you, I guess if it's not you, you can see it, and then at some point, if it is you, you see it, and you know, you can change it or not change it. But if you, this is the problem that I have. I want to tell everybody this. I want to tell them, like, hey, if you don't feel good, that's because you're not in agreement with who God says that you are. You're not in agreement with what the universe is saying to you, and you're not in agreement with the navigational system. The mothership is going that way and you are going this way. And the thing that really, like, it makes it tough is that I know I tell people what to do a lot. And I feel like, okay, let them wallow in their limitations, you know, like, don't, that's not your business. But I feel like sometimes I want to just say, like, you're feeling badly because you choose to feel badly. And I understand grief, and I understand depression, I understand all that, you know, I've been there. But there comes a point where there's a degree to which you can choose. And there are very, very, very simple and effective ways to change the way your subconscious mind thinks. And it's all through repetition. You can't do it unless you repeat yourself over and over and over. And it's active things that you do, but my gosh, they're free and they're easy, and they just take a, you know, couple seconds, you know. And it's like, if you are worrying yourself to the point where you're sick and now it's giving you some negative health effects, I think that you owe it to yourself to try something else to heal yourself. So I was trying to explain that, and I had to stop because I was explaining it to someone who was like, did not want to hear that, was defensive and arguing for their limitations. And it was sad to me because I was like, okay, now it's affecting your health. Like, now you got to go to specialists. But I think that part of it is like, what is the benefit that you're getting from telling this story? You know, telling a story over and over again about what's going on with your health, and telling a story over and over again, and calling people and telling the story, like, what are you benefiting? You're getting attention, you're getting, you know, a lot of attention, and it's like you're sacrificing the popularity and the attention, you're sacrificing your health. But you can't help everyone. You just have to, I shouldn't say not you. I have to put the information out there and hope that it resonates with someone. So that's why I'm broadcasting instead of just like telling the people in my life. I tell the people in my life, and if it doesn't, you know, if they're not ready to hear it, I just tell my message to Instagram Live, because it's just kind of a sad thing to watch. So if it resonates with you, that anything, like, sometimes you just feel plain bad, like me. Like 2 days ago when I felt disappointment, I was feeling disappointed, and you know, I was starting to go down that spiral, and the answer was, why do I feel disappointed? Why am I feeling negative emotion right now? I'm feeling negative emotion because my little boat has veered off course, and I'm not directly aligned and following the mothership right now. Well, if I'm saying that I feel disappointed and that's not aligned with what the mothership is saying, what is the mothership saying? This is basically what goes in my head, which is probably why one day I'll be wearing like one of those tin foil helmet things. Don't get my brain waves. But yeah, so if I'm feeling disappointment, and that means that which is a negative emotion to me for sure, and that means that I am not aligned with the ideas that the mothership has, I'm not going on the same course as the mothership, then what does that mean that the mothership is thinking about me right now? That means that the mothership is not disappointed. The mothership is the thought process from source energy. If it's not disappointment is the opposite of that. If it's like contentment and justice and peace and vindication, you know? So that made me stop and say, like, if I feel disappointed, but disappointment is clearly not the right answer, the opposite of that is that I feel like content and justified and free, then why am I wasting time feeling disappointed? Now, emotions are hard, so it did take me to do a focus wheel and all kinds of, and meditate and everything to really get my head wrapped around not feeling negatively. But I think I'm gonna be late for work. Interesting. But you have to try to pull yourself out of it. So it helps to know that if you feel bad, it's because you're not in agreement with God, and God knows everything. So the universe can see your entire life, past, present, and future. Your entire life is imaginary. So like if something bad is happening and it's like, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's all in your imagination. And if you can look at it from that perspective, that okay, the universe, source energy can see the entire story. They can see how this ends. So if they're not worried about it, why should I be worried about it? That's kind of what you end up having to do. I want to tell you, but I don't think I have enough time to tell you like what I do as far as my future self. You probably heard me say it before, like how I go visit. I'll just tell you briefly. I go and visit myself, the me in 5 years. I call her 24 because it's Fran of 2024. And whenever I feel like a little uncertain or scared, I'll just go in imaginary, just sit there quietly and daydream. I'll daydream, and I'll think about going up to her house and knocking on the door and saying, hey, how's it going, and coming to sit around the dining table and talk to her and ask her about whatever it is I'm worried about. Because if you think back on times when you've been really worried or really scared or really anxious about something, you think about it now and you're just like, what? That was nothing. Like a bad breakup that you had in college or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, that was the worst breakup. I thought I was gonna die. I didn't get out of bed, and I hated to see him with his new girlfriend and all these kinds of things. And it's just like, you think back on that breakup now and you're just like, whatever, he wasn't the one who got away, or maybe he was, and who cares anyway. Life goes on, and he's bald and fat now, and who cares? I dodged a bullet on that one, didn't I? That's the way I feel when I look back at guys in high school who were like, athletic and popular, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And you find them on Facebook and you're like, holy crap, what happened to you? Like that's how I feel about that. So I go visit Fran of 2024, and I sit around the table and I ask her about stuff like the situation I recently had, and I'm like, how did this work out? What happens? What happens? How, is it, clearly it's not the end of the world because you're here now and you look great, and the house is fabulous and the kids are healthy and everything's great. But what ended up happening in that situation? And I love, in my imagination, I love to imagine that the me in 5 years can't even remember what I'm talking about. Like, that's how I always play that out in my head. I always play it out of her saying, what? Oh, that thing? Oh yeah, no, that was fine. I don't even remember what happened. It was fine. Like, that's the way I play it out in my head, because I want to tell myself now that someday this is going to be a memory that like is barely a memory. Right now it's so dramatic and scary and all that stuff and dangerous, but in 5 years you're going to be like, I don't even remember what happened, like it was over. And that's what's been keeping me going for the last 3 years. And now the thing is over, and I'm like, thank God I don't have to think about that anymore. And also, not too long ago, my kids got really sick. Like, both of my twins, they had diarrhea, like really like a 10 days worth of diarrhea, really bad diarrhea. And I was slightly worried about them. Like, they were okay, like they were still hydrating and they were still eating. It wasn't like they were vomiting and all this stuff. So I was like, nobody had a fever. I was kind of okay. But I was a little bit worried when the diarrhea kept going on and on and on. So I was like, let me go visit 24. I didn't tell anybody else. I'm only telling you. Yes, to get back on track with the mothership. Absolutely. So what I did was, when both my babies were having bad diarrhea, I said, let me go visit 24 and see them. Like, not so much to go visit her, like the me of her, but I, went up to the door, knocked on the door, and I said, I want to talk to the kids. So we go in the dining room, we sit around the table, and I'm talking to the kids, and they're, 5 years older, so they're like 8 years old, 9 years old. And in my imagination, like, this is all like my thought life. I have a very strong fantasy life, which I think is really reality. But anyway, so I'm asking them about school, and I'm asking them about their favorite subjects and their extracurriculars, and I'm talking to them. I'm hanging out with my kids, the kids version of 5 years from now. And I'm not asking them about, hey, what about that time you guys had diarrhea? I'm not asking them that. I'm just reassuring myself that this too shall pass. Like, I'm just reassuring myself that yes, they are sick now. There are a lot of messy poops now, but in the future, everybody's gonna be fine. Everybody's gonna be healthy and happy and going to school and having things they want to talk about and all this stuff. It's gonna be fine. And so that helped me to calm down as a mama and just put everything into perspective and be like, don't worry about this, because I can't afford to get all low vibe. Like, if you start letting your vibrations go low, wallowing in like a pity party of your life, then bad things will start to happen, or you will start to perceive a lot of bad things happening, and then bad things will happen. So I can't afford that, because I'm addicted to the way it feels to like have good things happen to me all the time. It just started in like February or something like that, and I've had the best luck. Like, it's been amazing. So many good things have happened, and I feel so connected to source energy. And so I don't want to like lose that high. I want to stay on that high flying cloud, or whatever my husband says, fantasy land. Okay, fine. I want to stay in fantasy land. I love it. It's great here. So that is, I have to stop short. I hate stopping short. So that is how I let my emotions lead me. If anything feels and I analyze things to death. So if I feel like a twinge of like, I'm like, what is this feeling that I have? Like, what is this? It's not good. Like, I feel uneasy, and I have to figure out, like, when did this start? What was I thinking about? What happened? A lot of times it'll be like a whole day worth of awesome things, and then one stupid thing. Usually it's what I say. It's like, I said something stupid, and people didn't even really notice, or they didn't take notice for too long, but I'm beating myself up over it for the rest of the day. And that's when I realize it's that, I give myself the pep talk, not the nice one, but the one that's like, hey, I do not want to hear you talking about this. It's like, I don't want to hear this loop play again, because there's a loop that goes in your head. It's like, you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have said, and it just goes round and round. It's like, look, I'm done with this. I'm done with this loop. Let's get on to something else, because that's over. It was a great day. Everything worked out fine. It was just that one little thing that didn't work out fine, and that's okay. Get over it. So, and that's probably mean, but I've learned that that's effective for me. I don't know. I need to hear it that way, because I can't do the, it's okay, darling. Sometimes I do the, it's okay, darling. I got this under control. And sometimes just say, hey, cut it out. So hopefully this helps you, with emotional guidance, and just know that, like, there is a divine navigator. There is a direction that your life is going. Nothing is by chance, and you have complete choice as to whether you want to follow the mothership or if you want to go your own way. Only thing you need to know, darling, is that the mothership has all the navigational instruments, and the mothership knows where the rough seas are. The mothership knows how to navigate around the hurricanes and all the bad weather and all the choppy seas and all the things that can kill you. The mothership knows, so you can choose to follow the mothership, or you can choose to go your own way. It's completely your choice. But if you want to have an easy, happy life full of joy and soulmates and lovely friends and SOS Club and all that great stuff, then you should probably follow the mothership. And if you feel negatively, then you know that you're out of alignment, and you need to sit down and get quiet your head. Let the monkeys that are jumping around on the trampoline in your mind, let them sit down and take a nap, and then you can realize, okay, what do I need to get back on track? Okay, So, have a wonderful day. If you missed the first part of the wackiness, you can watch the replay. I'm going to keep it up for 24 hours, but I'm going to put this video on my blog, which is at boldworldplanners.com, or actually franinreallife.com. And that way you can watch it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Adios.